Don't adjust your sets. Don't adjust your sets.
You might want to.
This is not the Garden Report featuring Mike Kadlick. It is
No,
Patriots
no.
postgame show. Good news, bad news. Bad news is you've got me and Jimmy talking Patriots. The good news is it's the last time we're going to do it all year because the Patriots have been eliminated from the postseason because of their loss. They were win and in. Obviously,
John.
they didn't do that. Yeah.
When you see me, like how you do in the situation, this is like when Shaughnessy shows up in the locker room. Like, you know something went wrong. Like, I
Something's
shouldn't
wrong.
be here. Something's
Yeah.
wrong. Like, Shaughnessy starts poking his head around, you know that like there's something going on.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Everyone's looking at him like, what's this
Yeah, what's
asshole
he
gonna say?
What's
Yep.
this guy
start?
doing here?
What's
Why
he
are
gonna
things
start?
different now?
What's he gonna start? All the players know everyone's got like the headshots of media guys to be wary of.
Yeah. So I mean, what are we gonna do? We'll talk some about the game. The game very much kind of a microcosm of the season. They did some things that would make you think, oh, this team might be good. And then they did a series of things that are like, this doesn't resemble any Belichick coach team I've ever seen in my life before. You see good things from Mac. You see bad things from Mac. You see good play calls. You see some really puzzling shit as well. And therein is the Patriots season in a nutshell. Really hard to put your finger on it. You almost wish they crashed and burned down the stretch in a more spectacular way. That way you could just kind of rage tweet your way through the offseason and wait for massive changes. But you're kind of stuck in this, I don't know how bad it is sort of situation. And, you know, what's needed and what there is there. But they're kind of, you're in that bad spot, guys. You're dead in the middle, right? Which is the last place you want to be in the world. Not really a serious contender. Even if you make it to the playoffs, you're not really expecting to do anything there. Or just out and picking somewhere around 18, 19, 20 in the draft. And wow, that sucks too.
Tough.
So there you are. That's where they are. That's where we're at. And here we are with the season. Let's start with the game. Obviously, you have the emotional moment with the Hamlin thing. We could go around the horn and everyone can say how awesome it was, but we all know it was awesome. Let's get to the
Classic you.
We can
Classic
circle back.
you.
It was awesome, but also it's at that moment. Did you think, oh my God, this is going to be 100-0?
Well, it was an indictment. At first, it was like, okay, this is supernatural. This is outstanding, and it was. But then they do the same thing in the second half, and it's like, okay, maybe the special teams just sucks on this team, and that's exactly what they do. They've had the worst special team season I've ever seen under Bill Belichick. A team that continuously prides themselves on three phases of football, doing the little things right, winning in the margins, and then they let up 2 kick return touchdowns that basically seals the game because they lose by, 12? So,
Yeah.
look, if there's one thing that I can say, it's that I think Joe Judge still has a spot on this coaching staff, and it's on special teams because
Maybe on kickoffs.
Mike,
If
you
you
have a
get-
spot.
well,
You have a job on special teams. If you want
Honestly, Joe Judge might kick off next year.
right. But I mean, it's like Cam McCord. I mean, he's got to go, right? It was horrendous on special teams all season, and Joe Judge is here, and he might not have any other choice because they should reshuffle this offensive coaching staff. So I mean, put Joe Judge on the special teams if you have.
I know,
because
but it's
it was
like-
a train wreck again.
What are you going to get mad if the only reason those kickoffs were returned for touchdowns is because you've got friggin', because Jake Bailey didn't want to rehab or whatever the hell happened there.
Yeah, that's another story, huh?
Of course,
Right.
coverage is one thing, that's fine. But literally, when 93% of kicks go into the end zone, you're really out of
Right.
practice with that kind of stuff. I mean, but like it's like just like the Patriots season, you got a noodle-armed quarterback and a noodle-legged kicker. Is that a thing? Can you have a noodle
Seems
leg?
Noodle brain coaching staff.
Noodle brain. Everything's coming
It's the
up
New England
noodles.
noodles. This here's the
Everything's-
New England noodles, man. This is
Everything's
a tough one.
coming up noodles here.
Well, I'll say this.
Yeah,
I
hit
mean,
it.
the special teams was obviously horrible today from the from the defensive side of things. It's been pretty bad all damn year. The special teams, I think, it's one of the worst coached special teams under Belichick history. It's. Am I getting muted here?
Accident. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was like, damn, I see something wrong already. No, I just think it's been such a frustrating year for that special teams unit. We know about the punt return touchdown against the Jets, and that was nice. But overall, frustrating season. A lot of I think mistakes, a lot of yards given up. And Belichick used to hang his hat on special teams. That used to be the thing that he used to say: you got to be strong in all three phases of the game. And, of course, the major thing everyone's going to talk about, and rightfully so, is the offensive play calling this year. And that's the first thing they should address. But this game was lost because of the special teams today. I thought the Patriots outplayed the Bills in the first half. They should have
Totally.
they should have been leading that game. I think everyone would agree there. And it was anybody's game in the second half, but you freaking give up that second kick return. I mean, that's unacceptable. I don't care what the reasons behind it are. You got one job on special teams if you're that unit. You're all going for the same guy, damn it. Okay? Like, somebody get there. So that's one thing they're going to address. And then Cam McCord, he might not even take the team flight home. I'd be surprised if they let him on. Patricia's another story. I mean, I got to go back to this other play that I texted you about, John. 2nd and 20. You just gotta. You're getting close to scoring here and maybe putting a run for it. And Patricia calls a draw play. Okay, so you go from 2nd and 20, you're calling a draw play, you get a yard out of it. You got a 3rd and 19. And obviously everyone knows you got to go for the first. I don't think they needed to throw a home run pass there. It's 4 down territory at that point anyways. But for whatever reason, again, whether it was play calling or not, Patricia or Mac throws an interception in the end zone. But Patricia kind of put him in that situation. So when everyone bitches and moans about Mac's demeanor out there, he's probably scratching his head as to why the F are we doing a draw play on 2nd and 20. Maybe they thought they could catch the Bills thinking that they were definitely going to throw it, but come on. I mean, that's the type of play call that loses you games, and in this case, that knocked you out of the season. So these are the things that fans are going to remember, and it's not just tonight. It's been all season long. We've been questioning the same things with this team, and this is going to hurt to say, but if you're a real Patriots fan, you kind of needed them to lose this game. If you want to see real change happen, you gotta almost have to deal with the consequences before
You kind of
change
needed
happens.
them to lose more games for it to be kind
You
of
did,
like.
but you definitely didn't need them to make the playoffs.
You wanted to burn this village in order to save it, I think, and a
Right.
more spectacular end to the year. But to their credit, they actually, a lot of times you thought they were down, they came back and surprised you.
I would agree.
Just as many times as they kind of gave stuff away. There's a few times where you thought both they turned the corner and then have them puke all over themselves, and other times where you're like, this ship's sinking right now, and that they kind of pulled it together. I didn't expect them to play as well as they played today, mistakes aside. Mike Kadlick is back. He was borrowing Josue Pavon's Wi-Fi, but he's good now. So he's here. So let's just break down this game, and this is really frustrating because, I mean, it really boils down to. There's two things I want to talk about for this game. One, the special teams breakdowns are what they are. Game boils down to basically 3 plays: the 2 kickoff returns, and then getting the Bills 2nd and 23, and then 3rd and 10, and allowing that 50-yard Diggs touchdown. I mean, those are 3 scores right there on 3 long ones where you're playing them basically
42-yard touchdown too.
Yeah, you're punch for punch pretty much from the line of scrimmage in terms of how you're playing them, and you give up those massive plays. Number 2 is this. Where you're stuck with this team and where people have been kind of just killing themselves all year. We want Mac to throw the ball. We want him to press it downfield. We want to take some risks. Oh my God, Mac has to be more careful with the ball. He can't throw jump balls to Nelson Aguilar like that. And look at those interceptions. There's the back and forth. What do you guys want to? What do you want to see? Because I always like this version of Mac, because I don't think you can go anywhere with the other one. And I don't think the Patriots offense was good enough to kind of 17 play their way down the field for touchdown drives, as was evidenced by just how they played all year. So you do want to see them put some pressure on the defense, and they did today. But then also it resulted in, some questionable decisions and some interceptions, which ultimately ended up killing them. Mm-hmm. So, Mike, what do you think?
I mean, the Nelson Aguilar play was just why. It's like, why are you throwing a jump ball? Why are you throwing a jump ball to Aguilar with Tre'Davious White on him too? It's like, why call the play? Why make the decision to throw it there? Could be a Mac Jones decision, right? But that could also be, for some reason, Patricia in his ear being like, look, let's throw it out here and see what we got for whatever reason.
Sure.
But it's almost like I want to dumb it down to something as simple as they have enough pieces on offense that it's got to be an offensive coaching staff change in the offseason because, like you said, Mac played okay today. I thought he played well for the circumstances he was put in. And as far as the jump ball to Aguilar, crazy play call, crazy decision. And, I mean, the throw to Hunter Henry that was ended up intercepted, they're at 3rd and 19, and you kind of have to take a shot anyway with the season on the line. So the interceptions today weren't Mac's fault. I thought he played okay. I still think he deserves another chance in this system with somebody else calling the shots on offense. I don't think it's let's run away from Mac Jones right now this instant, but things certainly need to change because, I mean, the entire season wasn't good enough. And you're right, that's really where it came down to on offense is just a couple bad plays that, really turned the entire game on its head.
So it's tough for me to say like whether or not Mac deserves another chance, and I think he probably ultimately will get one.
Yeah.
It just sucks because they went all year with this like fugazi coaching staff that like nobody knew what the hell was going on. It seemed like a lot of times the players didn't know what was going on, whether it was something you heard from Bourne, whether it was the stuff about Mac. It didn't seem like anybody trusted from the top down what was coming their way, and there was certainly it looked like there to be. And I'm not in the locker room, so I can't really say for sure, but I felt like there was some level of a disconnect between the players and coaches this year, whether that was, all internal or whether that was what they were hearing from outside media and blah blah blah, and it was getting to their head. For whatever the reason, it just felt like they weren't a cohesive from coaching staff to players. So, and it showed on the field. It really did. I mean, and as far as the offensive talent goes, Mike, maybe you're seeing something that I'm not. I don't see many talented players at all in this offense.
Right.
I mean, I feel like everybody is very extremely replaceable
If
from the
you
quarterback.
change them all out, would anybody care? Is there anybody at home would be like, I can't believe you got rid of our entire offense? And I'm talking 5 new offensive linemen and entirely new skill position players. Would anybody blink? Could you do worse?
It might actually happen. I mean,
I push back on that because they're gonna get rid of Jacoby Myers and it's gonna be a mistake.
Myers is
what?
Bourne,
It would be a mistake if they don't sign another wide receiver and they have to throw a cornerback at the position.
Jacoby Myers is supposed to be your number 3 option. The problem with this team
number
is he's
3,
been there.
no, a number 2, I'll give you number
Says
2.
who?
Number 3.
Jalen Waddle is a number 2. Like,
Yeah,
what
you
are we
can-
talking? The good
Jacoby
teams out here, the good offenses, Chiefs aside, because Mahomes is a freak of nature, their number 2s and their 3s are dynamic guys who can beat you in a lot of different ways, not possession receivers. It's totally different. Like, he's a nice...
Miami's a different beast with a number 2. You can't call... Jalen Waddle's a number 1 across the league, though. He's a number 2.
I understand, but
That's
most
unfair.
teams have way more weapons than where Jacoby Myers would be considered a number 2 on their team. He's a nice security blanket guy who will get you some possession stuff. They're not even close in terms of
you could name
dynamic
50 wide
playmakers.
receivers probably easily. I mean, if you gave me a list, I mean, Jacoby Myers is probably not in the top 50.
Right? Is he? You're right.
So there you go.
Yeah, 50's a stretch. That's a lot of. He's good, guys.
You
He's
see
good.
our
He
point,
play the
though.
game and Mac
Our point
trusts
is
him.
this-
I do see your point, but I also would like to see a guy like Kendrick Bourne given an actual opportunity to play football this season, and you could see what he could bring because whenever they gave him the chance to make a play, he did. He
Let
was
me
like
ask
he
you
was in a
this.
doghouse with-
So why didn't they?
But here's the risk, though. Here's the risk of what you guys are talking about, what Jimmy mentioned. I'll put it back to you guys with this question. Everyone points to, this is almost kind of two-pronged question. Everyone points to coaching. They didn't give him a chance, blah, 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 blah. I think everyone agrees. They bring in new personnel. Maybe. That's not even a guarantee. But let's just say that they do. The 2 questions is, 1, why in the F did you think what you did last year was going to work in the first place? Throwing away a year like this of development is a fireable sin in most circles to make such egregious decisions that were so out of line with what most people thought would have been conventional thinking. But number 2, what happens if you replace all the coaching staff? Your savior, Bill O'Brien, walks through that door, and he's here, and then you have a really mediocre offense with the same mediocre people, and you're like, uh-oh, it was both. Because, I don't want to say it's one thing. You should always be looking to get better at everything, even if you are already good. I'm not looking at this group of players and saying, yeah, run it back, just new coaches, we should be good. I don't think that that's something that you can do.
No, they certainly need to make changes, especially like you
Didn't
said.
they
at the
just run it
beginning.
back?
Across the offense. What's that?
They just kind of did run it back on
They,
offense.
yeah, they got
they're
Devontae Parker, who they
who
thought
actually
was
like.
unbig.
I actually like Devontae Parker.
He made some plays today. He had come off a concussion, so he hadn't played the last few weeks. Today was his best game probably as a Patriot. But again, you need to make
Some
changes
big
on the
catches.
offensive line. You maybe go and get another wide receiver. The tight end situation has ended up being a disaster because you sign these guys, Henry and Jonnu Smith, right? And two of the top tight ends in the league at the time of signing, and they've just been a train wreck here. And whether that's because they were poorly sought after as far as they're not actually that good at the position, or they're just not being coached up right, that kind of remains to be seen because it hasn't really been there at all for them. But that's another position where you might have to go back, whether it's through the draft or whether it's free agency, but that's a position you've basically thrown away now too. So, no, it's not only coaching. They definitely need to make changes with personnel, but I don't think they're that far away personnel-wise.
On the defense, the reason that they're even in playoff contention is because of their defense.
Oh,
Their
100%.
offense from Mac on down they're dragging their offense behind them. It's just like a ball and chain situation right now.
Right.
So they have huge undertaking this offseason, and I don't know where they're going to start. If they want to bring Bill O'Brien back, that's probably most likely because at this point in Belichick's career, feels like he doesn't really even trust anybody other than the people that has been like in his circle for the last 20 years.
Right.
So I don't expect this new hotshot offensive lineman with all these new ideas to come in and turn the offense upside down. So I don't think anybody would be surprised. The rumors are already out there that it's going to happen. You can probably move Patricia to another title that isn't going to feel like he was relieved of his duties.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? And on we can go with the semantics of it all. But the bottom line is, and Belichick always says it, the players are the ones who go out there and play the game. So, yeah, it's going to come down to what type of a talent, what kind of talent can they put on the field. And Belichick's responsible for that too because he's had complete control over this roster for years.
So what's the goal? And here's the problem. And again, this is where being stuck in the middle is worse than being a terrible team. And this is why fans are so quick, particularly fans of the Patriots who are so used to success. We're spoiled, and spoiled isn't a bad thing, but there really is no point to spend any time in the middle. Again, if you make some tweaks, bring in some personnel, return some others, fix the coaching, what's the ceiling? First round exit? Second round, what's the true ceiling with this team and Mac as a quarterback? The reality is, the longer you try to kind of put Band-Aids on what is clearly a flawed roster with a quarterback that's probably not that dude, you're going to get further from your goal rather than closer to it. At some point or another, you do have to detonate or get really lucky or have a bunch of things go your way. A phenomenal draft, a couple of massive free agent signings and ones that are kind of at value. A surprising out of nowhere evolution of a player or two on your current roster that takes a massive leap. A lot of things have to happen for them to even whisper kind of AFC elite status and being able to reasonably go in and compete with the big dogs in this conference at all. So what are you trying to do? What are you hoping for here? What are you hoping for next? That's the kind of thing is you're kind of stuck here. You could have made the playoffs and you could have felt good about making the playoffs. And then you could say there's still some stuff here. There's things to work with. It's possible, but a lot has to happen. You're entering, everyone's going to be like, I don't know if Mac's the guy. They need more weapons, blah, 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 blah. But you're entering next season with no tackles, offensive tackles, right. And question mark, zero, and question marks at center and guard. The entire line might need to be replaced. You're in big trouble. There's a lot of stuff you have to do just to fix the basic things, let alone, do you have that guy, who can be that guy there? There's so many issues right now.
Wait, yeah, well, you look at, today looked like it was the last game for Slater and McCourty, but a guy like you said, the whole line, you don't know what David Andrews is going to do. He seems like a baller for his entire career.
He's been awesome. Everyone loves David Andrews.
Right, but he goes out there and fights, right? But who knows if he's, if he's done. His body could be toast right now too. So you just never know. That could be a situation. But as far as the ceiling, last year was a first round exit team, right? So I think this is really the make or break year you have for Mac, and I said it before too, but this is the year where you have to decide on the fifth year option. And if you bring in a guy like you said, Jimmy, with Bill O'Brien, or the name I keep going to is Cliff Kingsbury, because I don't know. I think that would be a phenomenal hire for the Patriots.
Kingsbury, his eyes like this and sweating, and he's like, "Is Kyler going to yell at me?"
Yeah, as an offensive coordinator, 100%, he can
Mac
call
will
an
eat him
offense.
up.
Yeah, maybe, but it would be pretty good. Get a little more fiery Mac. But no, they'd yell at each other too. It would be good. But again, I've seen enough from Mac with the
Kingsbury. Oh my God,
the
that might be
awful
the
incompetence.
worst coaching staff after the Patriots is the Cardinals this year.
He's not a great head coach, but he's a good offensive play caller. You saw it in
Maybe.
college. I do. I think that might be a better hire than O'Brien as far as talented offensive
Maybe.
coordinators
I
go.
want to go get that like high school guy who's like doing shit that everyone's gonna imitate
Yeah.
in like
Right.
in like 10 years and just be ahead of the curve. Why has Bill Belichick and the Patriots been so successful? They've been miles ahead of the curve on so many different things in terms of the direction that the league was going, being able to find value
Yeah.
in positions and players that others wouldn't. They
They'd
used to
go
find
3-4,
guys that,
and then the league would finally go 3-4, and then they'd go 4-3.
sucker! You had like those Mike Vrabel type players were considered guys without a position because they didn't and then they were like, no, I want all of those guys. And then everyone started getting those guys, and they're like, now we're gonna pivot. Now we're gonna play safeties as linebackers. Now we're gonna go heavy. We're gonna
Right.
Prioritize cornerbacks over pass
Double
rushers.
tight ends.
We're gonna get slot receivers that you
receivers
can't
as
cover.
tight
We're gonna
ends.
get tight
Right.
ends
Slot
because they're
receivers,
cheaper than
yeah.
receivers. So frigging far
We're
ahead.
We're gonna pay wide receivers tight end money.
Paying X dollars to this position in free
Right.
agency is a loser's proposition. They're miles ahead of everybody. It's time to be miles ahead again. Whatever it
yeah.
is, figure it out
Creativity's
and
gone.
do it. Everything that they're doing right now is regressive. Like bringing back these old names, running old concepts, basic stuff. These retread coaches who aren't, coaching out of position. A really, really strange year in Foxborough throughout.
Patchwork year.
Honestly, I'm saying a merciful ending at this point. Sure, they could
They're
have gone
better
back
off
to
missing the playoffs. They're
maybe
better
they
off.
could have gone back to Buffalo and see what happens. If they were competitive today, beat the Bills in Buffalo, yeah, you'd feel okay about them returning there again. But you know who these guys are. Ultimately, it's not going anywhere. So, it's just eyes on the future. And I think people have had eyes on their future, guys, all season long. I just don't think anyone's got like a number one solution because it's like there's so many things you need.
I mean, the defense is fine, but the offense, and again, you look at it as far as missing the playoffs. You don't know what would go on behind the scenes if they made it and Belichick walks into Kraft's office and say, "I made the playoffs again." Like I want my drinking buddies to have the headphones again because that's basically what it was with Patricia and Judge, right? So I think they're better off missing the postseason because there's this real, hopefully, ultimatum where look, we need to change something on offense or else maybe Bill Belichick is on the hot seat again. And like you said earlier, John, it's a position where 99 out of 100 coaches would be fired after what happened this season. But Bill Belichick still has that leash. I think the leash is as long as it's possibly going to get right now. So
Well, you know what?
He'll never be fired. I've always said it ends the same way. It ends the same way. Kraft goes to him and says, like, you're the best in the world, but you need some help. Are you willing to accept it? And that might be
I think that's now. I think that's right now.
That's now. That's
where
been.
we are.
I
Yeah,
thought it was
correct.
happening. It kind of might have sort of happened. That's why I was shocked they did what they did this year. But
Right.
I do think making the playoffs that one year kind of gave Kraft the feeling that, like, okay, upward trajectory. And then what happened this
Rookie
offseason,
quarterback, right.
with everything around it and the coaches and what they did, and then, two kind of, out of nowhere draft picks, off the board draft picks early, and just like, I'm doing it my way. I think it's that time where Kraft walks in and says, we need outside voices. We need outside coaches. You need personnel people who can really help us kind of get out of this thing because we're really fixated and we're stuck in a bit of a rut here. You're the best coach who's ever coached in any sport, period, and that's what we want you to do. Can we take some of the burden off you, Bill? Will you accept some help? And Bill's either going to say, no, I do it my way and leave me the F alone, and then you've got a problem, or he's going to say yes. That's what's going to be the most interesting thing here with this
Also,
offseason.
like Kraft is also getting up there. I'm talking about Robert Kraft. So at some point, like when does he sort of hand over some of the decision making, or has he already behind the scenes? And what's the relationship between Jonathan Kraft and Bill Belichick? Obviously, that one's probably stranger than.
I think Jonathan hates Bill with the
well,
fire of a thousand
I
suns.
didn't want to
but-
say that. That's why I just used the word stranger. That's going to be something to look at too. I mean, which one's going to sort of step down from the role we know them in first? And I think we're all, there's a finite ending to this, right? And certainly, don't get me started on the Brady ending, but that was kind of the beginning of the end, I think, for this run, this magical run here. And
Right.
this is the quote unquote rebuild. Now, the difference is they didn't want to really do a full blow it up rebuild. I mean, they actually thought Mac was going to help them compete, contend, and then they drafted. They got. Sorry, did I say Mac? I meant Cam. When they signed Cam, then they draft Mac. I think a lot of people were split on that decision. I don't even know if Belichick wanted to make that pick. There was a lot of talk that maybe he didn't, but he did because he was there and
because they needed a quarterback, and right.
Other people were saying, other people, I don't know if people higher up were saying to do it. And so that relationship could be a little iffy as well. But they're definitely at a crossroads right now. And you're right. This feels like the next year, it almost feels like Mac played just well enough where he might deserve a crack at it. Now, does that mean the Patriots might not go sign some guy on a 1-year prove-it deal and see if they can fight it out in camp? Maybe. I mean, a lot of people in the comments are saying Jimmy G, Jimmy G. I don't think Jimmy G comes here without a guarantee that he's starting, obviously. But
he might be relatively expensive too at that point.
Right, there are players.
But still have other suitors.
Yeah, there are. I mean, dude, there were so many. I mean, I think I heard this year was a record for starting quarterbacks, the most starting quarterbacks in one season of all time. So there's opportunities out there for these guys. Max certainly hasn't played well enough where it's like, this is my job and like nobody would dare come here and take it from me. But you also have to look at the quote unquote weapons that he's had to throw in with, the play calling. Are they putting him in a position to succeed with the way the offense is sort of being run? So it's hard to like, where do you place the blame? I think we're all wondering like, where does the blame pie lie? And John, we like to play blame pie when it comes to the Celtics. I don't even know where I would dish out the blame with this Patriots team. It's all over the place.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it Mac? Is it the lack of weapons? Is it the coaching staff? Is it Bill? Is it, is it?
It all starts and ends with Bill. It's just
100%. Yeah.
Of course, but at the end of the day,
when you make,
let's say we already know that, right?
You make every decision. You get a lot of credit. You get a lot of blame. I mean, they're here. This is his team that he put on the field. These are his coaches. It's obviously him. It's his team that's out there that's not prepared for situations. It's his team taking dumb penalties. It's his coaches making horrible play call decisions. They can't run the ball, they can't catch the ball, but so much of what we saw during the course of the year is schematic. I mean, how many really outstanding Patriots analysts out there are showing clips up there? You have Lazar, Bedard, all of these guys, Callahan, just showing Patriots running routes. Well, yeah, Phil, where the receivers are running into each other, where the receivers aren't making breaks when Mac is done with his drop, where he has to wait for them to turn their heads to get rid of the ball, where the timing is completely off, where you're flooding certain areas of the field with receivers. I mean, some really rudimentary stuff that they're messing up here. It really felt just kind of like, I don't know. I've never done this before, but sure, I'll give it a shot. And then they just kind of kept letting him do it. So I'm curious, people in the chat, are you mad? Are you sad? Are you hopeful? I'm not really sure. I'm not sure what's the feeling, guys, right now with this team heading into the offseason. Offseasons are supposed to be about, okay, great, chance to reset if we just blank, blank, and blank. But I with this team, I don't know. It feels kind of like, I don't want to say hopeless, but a little bit of despair just with the current state of things.
I mean, you talk about that route spacing again as we wait for the chat to fire up, but the route spacing, not only were they not able to run plays in those situations a few weeks ago, they literally got two guys hurt. Henry and Smith run into each other, and Henry's out for the game, and then Jonnu and Kendrick Bourne run into each other, and Jonnu gets a concussion, he's out for the game. So you're not just running poor offense, you're literally getting your guys hurt on the field because you can't call an offense correctly. It was a disaster this season. And I think you talk about blame pie, it starts and ends with Belichick, and to his credit, I guess, he fully took the blame on it this year. Every time he was asked about it, he said it starts with me. But yeah, it's that, and it's
consistent in that for sure.
Yeah, right. But not that, good for him, give him his
sure.
kudos, whatever. It's still a problem, but yeah, it starts with coaching. I've said it all year. I've said it since week 3 when Mac was throwing 3 interceptions against the Ravens, and it's like, okay, yeah, Mac's not built to throw the ball around the yard like Josh Allen, but they were trying to do that anyway to start the season, and then they completely flip it on its head when Zappy's in, and then Mac comes back and they change it again. It's like there's no consistency. Nobody really knows what they're doing, and they're just basically giving Matt Patricia a headset and saying, "Here, go play Madden." It's ridiculous.
That's interesting. First Zappy reference of the show.
And I hate that it was me
We're
because I
doing-
can't stand every time I see Zappy on
We're
my
doing the
timeline.
wind
Makes me
horse
wanna-
over the Zappy comment.
So
Why are you
that's
saying that?
Interesting point that you make.
we were just talking about camp competition here. What if the Patriots
fingers.
quarterback?
What if?
The Patriots made a very interesting move in the
Curious.
offseason.
Yeah.
No, but really though, I mean, the Zappy stuff isn't going to go away, Mike, as much as you might want it. I think it's only going to get louder, to be honest. I mean, especially when they go into off-season, training camp, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
People are actually going to be considering this a competition. I think that's fair, and I think they have every right to. If the Patriots don't go after a free agent this year, they don't draft anybody, which I don't think we expect them to.
Right.
It's going to be Mac and Zappy, take two in terms.
I think he's a
of
good
the
backup
competition.
quarterback. I think he's a good backup
A
quarterback.
lot of people
He's a
think
good
Mac's
guy.
a good backup quarterback too.
Yeah. Right.
I just no. I won't give up on Mac yet after this year because I
I'm
don't.
not
I
asking you to
truly
give
don't-
up on him, but don't you
I
think?
truly don't-
So you think
No.
that they used to think that Mac should just be given the keys to Week 1 next season, no competition, nothing. It doesn't matter how he looks or how good Zappy looks.
Well, so
you're
here's where it comes down to.
You get-
I don't think it's a Zappy question. It's more a question of, are you going to actively seek to find someone else? That's the question. Do you make your Jimmy G play? Do you sniff around at Derek Carr, which I think is silly because even
Derek
those
Carr
guys.
is just Mac, but expensive.
I think they're all silly because they're mediocre quarterbacks that are expensive. But
Right.
but if you
know,
think that you're there though, and you're a quarterback away, Carr gives you a better chance to win.
maybe.
I don't necessarily agree with that, and he
Maybe.
just takes away from your cap.
But
so
he's
much.
probably going to
That's
cost you
not gonna-
$28 million.
That's fair.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Cap,
It's like
the cap question is that makes
so
it,
you've got problems there. So one, you have to decide if you're in or out, and this is the problem. This is kind of the year 3 load up, where you got to figure out if your guy is the guy, and you've got that money, and you've got the quarterback on the rookie deal, and you're like, all right, here's the year I'm going to spend money, and they're in that position. They do have some money coming off the books. They've got some shit that on their cap, like John, who's got 26 million in dead cap. They can't get rid of that, but you can clear Aguilar, you can clear Henry, you can clear some stuff, and kind of have some money to play with here, which should allow you to kind of go hard and invest in things that you can kind of keep as building as centerpieces going forward while you still have your quarterback and your rookie deal. You see that happen a lot in year 3, but you got to commit to that quarterback before deciding that you're going to spend all of this capital and then realize I don't like this guy anymore, and now you're stuck with no quarterback at all and all this expensive stuff, and you can't do anything with it because there's nobody to throw them the ball. So the commitment to Mac is the issue. It's easier to stick it out.
yeah, what comes first?
But I would agree, some level of competition is possible. I just see it coming in the form of a 3rd-round draft pick as opposed to going out or a veteran in camp,
Baker Mayfield.
whatever, or a Baker or
I
a
don't know.
retread. No, but you're right. I mean, there's story. The story with Belichick. He was ready to kind of Mike Ditka the draft and give a whole bunch of shit to move up to get Baker that year.
Right.
So you always wonder, like, these guys, these flameouts that Belichick, liked, didn't get a shot at, saw them flame out somewhere. Is he going to think he can fix them? I think Baker Mayfield's an extremely intriguing option, only because we know Bill liked him, not because I think he's
Training camp
good.
Would be a blast.
Clip
But it'd
that.
be fun. But yes, could you bring Mayfield, Darnold,
That's
or
a
one of those
social
guys
tip.
in there potentially? Yeah, maybe. But I don't see a world in which they flat out here's the other scenario. Do you have someone like Josh McDaniels that says, I can fix Mac Jones? That's my sneaky destination. If the Pats are giving up on Mac, my sneaky destination is he's the next Raiders quarterback.
I've thought of that too.
Yeah.
Just saying, is there a team out there that thinks I loved this guy and I will absolutely take a shot and willing to do it, and the Patriots go reset? Absolutely possible, but they got to make that decision early. Once you get through all of the process, you have to basically know right now whether you want Mac to be the guy or not, or they got to make that decision kind of early in the offseason because it's going to shape their entire offseason if they're going to go in another direction.
Max trade value was also so much higher a year ago after coming off.
It
the
was,
playoffs
but
and
I
being
mean,
a
look
rookie
at what
quarterback.
Darnold got after
Yeah,
3
that's
failed
fair.
years. He got you a 2nd, a 4th, and a 6th.
Right.
I don't think that when you saw him have 1 year of success, I still think there's value, and I still think there's teams out there that think absolutely this guy could be my guy. Because look at as Jimmy mentioned, the amount of quarterbacks this year that people went through. Some teams were just in the bottomless pit this year.
I've never heard of
quarterback
a few.
hell. Mac Jones would be a friggin' dream to
Skylar
15.
Thompson qualified for the playoffs today.
Ugh. Yeah.
Right. You almost need two like very capable quarterbacks per team now, and because I don't know, these guys are dropping like flies for whatever reason, and you don't want the whole thing to go up in smoke over that, right? I mean, if you build a championship contending team, obviously you have a stud quarterback, but you don't want to have somebody that's just going to be a massive, massive drop off from that. So, yeah.
All right. So as we talk this through, and I've clearly been much more in the opinion that the Patriots are closer than you guys think to being contenders.
Sure.
Again.
Have we
I've
changed
written
that
down-
opinion? Because we do that to people.
No, I'm sticking to it. And I
usually
wrote
bully
down
people
a
out of it.
sticky note 4-step plan for the Patriots to be an AFC contender
Okay.
again.
Okay.
Here we go.
You
Step
bring
one.
in an offensive coordinator that's not Matt Patricia.
Why don't we share
Call it
screen?
Bill O'Brien.
Well,
on
he's
the
not
sticky note?
he's not an offensive coordinator, so that's a start. Any
Right.
offensive coordinator will do.
Jimmy
First
holds
round
stuff
pick.
up to the camera, by the way. That's how we do it on the Garden Report.
I do that.
He literally does. He's like, look at my sticky
Perfect.
note.
Oh, that's
Yep.
exactly
Hold
what
on.
I
Here we
would
go.
do.
Let's see it. I'm going to give you full screen. Yeah, we can kind of see it. Okay.
No, a little
that's
bit
fine.
closer.
Offensive coordinator.
So bad.
Offensive coordinator.
Use a
First round-
Sharpie.
First round, yeah, I know it's a big pen. First round tackle, okay, is number 2. You get a guy who can shore up the line. You hope that David Andrews comes back, but first round tackle.
Okay.
You bring in an offensive weapon with your cap space that's going to fill up or open up. A guy like Jerry
Is this
Jeudy.
step 3?
Yes, this is now step 3.
Okay, you bring in a what? Offensive weapon? Like a wideout?
Yeah, offensive
So-
weapon, wide receiver, a legit
Okay.
number 1. That's not Devontae Parker, who's a retread number 1, a true number 1. And then you change up the special teams coordinator to Joe Judge, and you get that entire section of the team cleared up. That's a 4-step plan
Really
that makes
good
you better.
Step 4, really good scotch. Yeah.
And that makes sense. That works. You bring in an offensive coordinator that gets Mac back on track. You bring a tackle that can protect him again. It's mostly offensive because the defense is fine where it is right now, and you might need a boundary cornerback as well because.
So that's what's crazy is as bad a misfire as Bill was on both drafting offensive skill position players, and of course the running backs have been fine, but every running back is fine. So let's not oversell.
Running backs are the most repeated.
Ramondre, and I love
position.
Ramondre Stevenson. I think he is really good, but you're finding those types of guys every year all over the draft. Okay, so let's put those in a bucket. Obviously, your receivers, the 2 tight ends you drafted who basically didn't play a snap for you, the 2 tight ends you paid a ton of money to bring in here and revamp your offense completely. Nelson Aguilar, who did absolutely nothing. You never figured out. Not only they didn't do anything. You never figured out what you got them for, which was the most perplexing thing. Usually when Bill goes and gets a guy, he's like, this guy fits here, and they're going to do exactly this, which they weren't doing there, and I'm going to unlock their potential. And he didn't. They never used any of these guys the way you would expect that they would be used. Thornton, Strange, blah, 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 and this and that. That's been a mess. But the defense, everyone thought he was crazy about J.C. Jackson. So this is where Bill still got us a little bit, right? Everyone's like, he's crazy. J.C. Jackson, they don't have a number 1. They don't even have a number 2. And then Jalen Mills throughout camp is locking down friggin' everybody. And then the Joneses start to look really good. And then X, Y, and Z. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, they're really good there. The defensive backfield is actually a strength of this team, And then the pass rush, which outside of Judon, you didn't know what you had, was awesome. It was relentless all year. So there's some hits there. You're right. It's actually pretty heartening, not to say to not touch the defense, but you don't have to do a lot to be competitive defensively. So that is a big, when we look at the problems, the reason they look so vast is because they're all on one side of the ball.
Right.
Sure, you can upgrade a couple spots for sure here. And guys, thank you very much, by the way. We appreciate the super chat here.
How about the one under that?
He did close the season. Yeah.
No, the message under
Oh, this guy? Yeah. Merton Hanks, is that what it is?
Let me see.
M. Harks?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
That
But yeah,
could
you're
technically
right.
be me, Jimmy. That could technically be me because you guys are often together, so I technically could be the new guy in this situation.
No, I'm definitely the
No, it's me. It's always me.
We're all whiny because they suck. They suck
Hey,
this year.
yeah,
We're all
hey,
whiny.
sorry,
Why is this guy whining?
Hey,
I'm sorry. The
Harks
Patriots
wants me to
didn't make
throw
the
a parade
playoffs.
today.
Yay! Yay!
Parks was
Yay!
expecting
Yay!
balloons, I guess. My bad. I should have came prepared for this party. I didn't come with gifts.
Missed the playoffs 2 out of 3 years. Yay!
If you think I'm whiny on this show, come hang out after after a Celtics loss.
After the Celtics lose by 40 to OKC.
Yeah, seriously.
But go ahead, Mike. You were saying.
No, well, I was gonna say too about he's talking about the coaching staff and how much we hate what the Patriots did on offense this season. Remember what we were saying a season ago about the defensive coaching staff when it was Steve Belichick and everyone was calling out the nepotism on Bill and Gerard Mayo, who they just split it up and they were terrible, and then Bill came in, whatever. They've completely put those narratives aside this season. The two of them have been great. Nobody has complained about Steve Belichick once this season, probably because of how bad Patricia was. But yeah, the tongue, that was I can't even do it. I won't do that here on camera.
So
but
weird.
no, that was no one said a thing about Steve Belichick. They were all pretty good. That was tightened up, and I'm not surprised if Gerard Mayo commands the head coach.
And that's the thing is, based off of that, Mike, would you not think that Bill might be like, nah, Matt and Joe will be good next year. We'll tighten that up. We'll get it. We'll know what we're doing now.
Yeah,
would it be shocking if he did that? Is all I'm saying. Not do we want that to happen? Would it be shocking?
Would it be shocking? That's a good question. No, but it can't happen. It was so much worse than the offense this season was so much worse than the defense last season that something's got to give. I think that's a true ultimatum that Robert's going to come in with this season.
That's true.
Earlier.
But defense was fake good last season. They beat up on some chumps. The reality was they weren't nearly as good as we thought that they were.
Right.
And then it
but
really
they at
got
least
bad.
Adjusted. They made
it
adjustments.
Really got bad
after
the bye. This defense was consistently good all the way through.
Totally.
And really kept them
some good
competitive.
Players on the defensive side.
A lot of people asking in the chat, and this is a lot of the questioning here. Has Bill lost his mojo? And again, this is what we were just kind of talking about. You've seen a lot of misses on the offensive side and some free agent signings that didn't pan out, and then obviously the questionable coaching hires. But then you see him basically construct a defensive backfield out of spare parts and have it flourish this year, and get a really ferocious pass rush and a D that led the league in takeaways. So he still knows something in terms of personnel management. There's no question about that. And he's still coaching up pretty good defensive game plans. He's still coaching up decent defense, good defensive game plans.
I don't think he's as ahead of schedule as he used to be, like you mentioned earlier. It's more so now you're waiting for them to catch up on things, especially offensively. So
you know what I think also, and again, I'm not in the locker room. I just wonder if his coaching style doesn't resonate with kids these days. As I get on I'll be Boomer John for a second, but honestly, he's tough.
Rotten kids.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously got an old school way of doing things. It works. I don't know if he's maybe he doesn't get through to players as easily as he used to. That isn't to say that they don't listen or respect him, but maybe I don't know, players now or people today are a little bit different than they were 20 years ago. Now you've got guys like McCourty and Slater who kind of bridge that gap, right, of the players who have won championships that way with that coaching. If those guys are gone, there's really not many guys left on this squad. You talked about David Andrews. Really, who's going to sort of carry that torch? I mean, I know there's a couple of great defensive players on the team, but when it comes to sort of being the player rep for the coaching staff, are we getting to that point now where, again, John mentioned it, he wants this hotshot offensive coordinator to come in. I just don't know if that's something that Bill would ever do. I think he's just got this old school way
Maverick
of doing things.
Top Gun style, hot shot. I want some guy coming in.
Obviously a guy like Kendrick Bourne, it doesn't seem like he gels with the way that Bill does things. I think we can all agree. And that showed. He didn't get his playing time. When he did play, he's clear. I mean, talent shows on the field, but if you're in the doghouse for whatever reason, at the end of the day, you won't be able to show that talent.
There's a reason for it, right? Yeah. I mean, I look at the two suspensions that came in yesterday or 2 days ago with Jake Bailey and Jack Jones. I mean, Jack Jones, a guy who in college had his own troubles as well, but those are two guys that are now not going to get 2 game checks because they were suspended retro to the end of 2022. So if guys see that and be like, look, there's a disagreement and we're just going to suspend guys and not play them, that's another thing that you wonder if it obviously doesn't resonate with the team, and guys are sort of going to pull away from Bill Belichick in that sense. But I don't know. Go.
No, let me fire off a quote from the locker room. Mac Jones caught a lot of shit, obviously, over the last several weeks for body language, for throwing people under the bus, demonstrative reactions, petulant behavior, all of that stuff. And it's funny because that was some stuff that people talked about early, and then there's a lot of pushback on, like, no, he's just fiery and this and that. Like, look, it is what it is, but obviously that there was some sort of kind of disconnect between him and the coaching staff and some of the stuff that was going on. Just now, or a few minutes ago, Mac at the podium, the blame is on me. It's my offense. It's my group of guys. I've learned more than I ever could have imagined in a football season. Just want to be able to build on it. Now, maybe too little too late, because it's obviously been clear that he had some issues with some of the stuff around him, and people will still, despite the fact that Mac is taking the blame for certain things, be like, nah, it's not his fault. But again, it's nice to see some accountability here in the end, because you could go out. I think it helps that he threw, 3 ill-advised interceptions today, or at least 2, because
the
obviously
third one was his fault.
Third one's not his fault, but
Right.
you knew the first 2 were. But that being said, yeah, accountability is important, and that was something people were wondering whether Mac was kind of getting it, even though they really, really, really screwed him this year with the coaches. I don't think anybody will disagree with that. So wanted to throw that in. Mac talking about, you wonder if Mac hears the footsteps too. It's not like, he's dreamed his whole life of being a Patriot, and if he did get traded, he would be heartbroken. But nobody wants to be given up on after 2 years. I'm pretty sure he knows he didn't have his best year. Even if he wasn't fully set up for success. And nobody wants to be kind of unloaded after 2 years as a bust or a failure or anything like that. So he's got to be thinking about, he's going to do some self-reflection, I think, this offseason.
Yeah, I think he understands that as far as the Patriot way goes, and if that's even still a thing anymore, he always, at least at the podium or at his locker, is going to say, it's on me, even when it's clearly not his fault. Like the play where Jacoby Myers threw it back to him, Max said he had to make the tackle, and it's like, okay, that play was not Mac Jones's fault, but he's always going to shoulder it. That's just because that's kind of what he's told to do.
Yeah,
that was a pretty pathetic attempt, but
it was sad.
But he wasn't making the tackle.
He legit got
it
stepped.
Still wasn't his fault.
I mean, if Chandler Jones is
got stepped on,
barging ahead of me, I might do the same thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but again, the demonstrative yelling and screaming on the sideline, like Tom Brady got away with that stuff, because that's because Tom Brady's Tom Brady. Like, you don't just come in and kind of get away with that stuff. You got to take your lumps for a while. But I mean, it really was. It was so bad this season. It wasn't really fair to a guy coming into his second season to surround him with that. So I see both sides of that, I guess.
Yeah, I see both sides. I'll throw this out as one more Mac-related thing, and then we'll put a bow on it. And Mike, and Alex will be coming back with Patriots Beat this week with a much more comprehensive kind of post-mortem, both on the final game and the season. And there's going to be an entire offseason of reflection and looking ahead. And obviously on CLNS Media, you can catch that with, as I mentioned, the Patriots Beat podcast, or Greg Bedard Patriots podcast, Andrew Callahan's Pat's Interference podcast, and all other things that we do to cover the Patriots. The off season starts now. We're actually about an hour into it, so
I'll write up this 4-step plan into a full analysis.
Well,
there's going to
off
be
seasons simplified in 4 easy steps.
Yeah, there's going to be post-its.
Exactly, Jimmy.
This is the first of many post-its this season, this offseason for Mike. I do want to ask this, and I know people hate this question. I'm sure the chat will light up with, like, it's not that number thing, but, fine. Mac was put in a bad position this year, but he did come in the best shape in much better shape physically, which is something that we thought had to happen. In addition to kind of getting NFL battle tested, and he started year 1, so obviously he gets the jump on that. You expected him to understand things a little better in year 2. They screwed him with the coaching. We know that. Take it, put it in a bucket. Physically speaking, though, we were promised a better Mac Jones this year because he came in stronger, he came in better. And I always said that in year one. Like, look, that noodle arm shit, like you can get away with it, but ultimately, in order to stress a defense, you got to be able. They have to believe you can make certain throws, or they're just not going to defend parts of the field. They're not going to take it seriously on some throws that they just know that he can't make. And I just assume naturally he's just going to get man strong. He's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger. Tom Brady's arm got better as time went on, where he could really drill it into space, into places. I didn't see it at all this year, which was a bummer because, again, it's not like you want him to come back friggin' jacked, but you do expect a little bit of muscle, a little bit more mechanics, and working with some people. He should be able to get a few more RPMs on the ball. And I don't know. I mean, I know. I just didn't see that physical development. Maybe he was a little bit more escapable this year. He
What's
did
your
some
question?
stuff. He did some stuff with his legs. Did you guys see any? And can we expect any? And how important is it?
Jimmy, go ahead if you had it.
Oh, well, I would give you first crack at it since this is your
go,
show.
Mike. You watched them all year.
Yeah.
Downfield throws, yes. I think that as far as throwing farther downfield, 50, 55 yards, like when they didn't give him the chance on the Hail Mary, the week after he showed that he could throw a 55-yard bomb. The distance is there, but RPMs in tight windows, John, I agree. He still kind of throws up some lollipops. It doesn't look like he trusts his arm intermediately as far as, squeezing it into tight windows. On rhythm throws, sure. So I think it's there, deep down the field. He's hit a couple guys in stride. You saw it with Taekwon last week and things like that. But I still think, like you said, as far as man strength, and it comes up with mechanics as well. Like, mechanically speaking, you can add to your arm strength just by actually setting up and not just, chucking the ball like you have a noodle arm. So another season, mechanically, getting better in shape, I guess we'll see what happens. I don't think it was that much of a change from year one to year two, but I mean, I don't think he's complete noodle arm Mac Jones like you guys say or the chat is. I think he has something there on his arm.
And I don't need him to show up with like a Josh Allen rocket.
Right, that's
cannon
not who he
arm.
is.
It's not going to be who he is. Tom Brady was never that quarterback
No,
either.
he's
but
just got to confidently be able to make more
that's
throws.
it, and that's really what it is. He needs to be more of a system quarterback. He needs to be able to make the short intermediate throws. Accuracy is my biggest thing with him. I mean, for me, it was the open guys that he.
Yeah,
missed
that
this
was
year.
where he sucked this year. He missed a
that's
ton
what it was.
of open throws.
And that's not arm strength. That's like you just said, like just
That's mechanics.
comfortability, in the pocket, out of the pocket, timing. It's just putting the time in. Really, I mean, it is off-season stuff, but I think hopefully with another year under his belt, I mean, some guys they're not gonna be as quick to adapting to the NFL game as others are. So I think I kind of agree with Mike where, there are a lot of reasons why I would agree with everybody who's done with Mac Jones. I was fed up with him at many points this year, mostly because I felt like his demeanor was really something that I just didn't appreciate. And certainly the product at times on the field was, below average as well. But if you're already at the point where you can't even fathom the idea of him starting another game in the NFL, then I think you're jumping the gun a little bit.
Right.
You can't move on from him. You can't because the price is right. That's the thing is like any upgrade you get, as Mike said earlier, is a more expensive version of what you currently have. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to bail this early in somebody's development. Mac's coming back. I think there'll be a lot of questions about it. It makes unless they friggin' hate him. You never know what's really in Bill's mind, but I don't think that's the case.
You also need a system to be a system quarterback, and there was zero system in place this season. It was just thrown together.
When I say system quarterback, I just mean like he's not going to beat you with his arm, right? But he's got to be able to he's got to be able to execute on the play calls that are there. If a guy runs the route and he's open, you got to hit him at the right time where you got to hit him, and that's pretty much what I mean. And that's what Brady did his entire career. I mean, obviously Brady, no one's going to be Brady. No one ever can be or will be. But point being, he wasn't beating you with this rocket cannon laser arm, right? So he did it with his brain. He knew how to beat the game, and it was just by being smarter, being a step ahead, which is what we talked about earlier in the show.
like I
Mac's
said, we
now
could.
going to go into quickly.
Yeah.
Mac's now going to go into his third system in 3 seasons, and that's
Yep.
not a recipe for success ever. Sure,
No.
it's one the same head coach, but you look at guys. I always go back to Baker Mayfield because he had so many different coaches. He had so many different offense coordinators in Cleveland, in Carolina, now in L.A. It's like that's not how you get any sort of rhythm or consistency to start your career. So now he's going into year 3 with a third probably offensive change. Like, hopefully this is the one, but that's not a recipe for success.
Yeah, not great. And as I said, there's a lot more Pats talk to come. I'll ask you guys quickly here, just to kind of go over it because it was amazing. That kickoff return touchdown. Just your thoughts when you were watching that to start the game. Obviously, there's a vested interest in the Patriots doing well, and this is what we do, and we're all from this area. And naturally, you don't want to see that happen to the Patriots, but that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was poetic. I saw your tweet about the after the Jose Fernandez incident in Miami, and then D. Gordon hits a home run. It felt like that. It felt supernatural.
That's the first thing I thought of because I remember
Yeah.
that moment being crazy and like.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that D. Gordon was I was searching for it the whole time. And I was like, that
Yeah.
was the one. It was like that's not going to happen, right? He didn't just
Right.
do that, did he? And like, oh
Yeah.
my God, he did.
You
I
knew
was
that
expecting more like a what's the word I'm looking for? Just a perfect drive down the field, an inspiring drive down the field by Josh Allen was like what I was expecting. Like they're going to go down and score, and it's going to be great. Kickoff return was perfect. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just felt like the energy in the stadium and the emotion and everything. I felt like it was going to take a lot for the Patriots to stop the Bills on that first drive,
Yeah.
and they didn't even have to. But I think Romo said it was like Angels in the Outfield, which everyone remembers that movie from 30 years ago or whatever. It kind of just felt like there was something else going on there for the Bills. We won't talk about the fact that the Patriots special teams was a horror show to begin with, but kind of helped them out a little bit. But it was a cool moment. I mean, I think, we all watched last week, or geez, when was it?
It's Monday, 6 days
Monday,
ago.
yeah. It feels like a long
Right?
time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we all watched. We were all just like kind of. I think everyone was in the same boat, texting their buddies, like looking for updates, hoping and praying for a positive result.
It was like an election night. You're staying up all night because you were so
Seriously.
riveted.
Yeah,
Like,
multiple
what's going to
chains are-
happen,
Everyone's got multiple chain texts going and bouncing information that they're getting off everybody. And I think everyone is extremely pleasantly surprised to see the recovery in such a quick amount of time, too. So, it came at the Patriots' expense today, but I think we can all agree that really cool story and happy that, Hamlin's doing well.
Yeah.
That's how it was supposed to happen.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
So-
So there you have it. Lot to go on. That was a great moment. Patriots held that one off, played the Bills pretty much to a standstill for most of the game, but just kind of gave it away with those kickoff returns and a couple of big plays. And that was it. That's what happened. So you got guest appearances by Jimmy Toscano and John Zannis on Patriots-related stuff.
That's right.
And that's what
Thanks
it
for
is.
coming in, guys. Good stuff.
But thank you, and as we said, Mike, and the rest of the football guys will take the football conversation forward throughout the offseason, which we expect is going to be. This could go in a zillion different ways. It could be explosive. It could involve could involve Belichick, could involve the coaches, could involve Mac, could involve trades, big free agent signings definitely on the table. There's a lot of possibilities here about what the team could do, so it is super, super interesting. But obviously, we're still in football playoff mode. That'll take center stage here until kind of we get through it all. But the questions begin now, so feel free to ask them. We'll be talking about them here on CLNS. Thank you guys for watching us today. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel for all that good Patriots content. And of course, if you're interested in any other sports, particularly the Celtics, you can catch me and Jimmy over at the Garden Report.
Right.
Postgame
One less
show.
team to watch now, so come on over to the Celtics side. Bruins are doing well, too.
Come on over. We got coverage of all of it, so you guys can come find us over there, covering the Celtics as well as a host of some of the best basketball voices and minds in the market, talking about the Celtics, who are always fun and interesting as well. So that's going to do it for Mike Kadlick, Patriots writer for CLNS Media, Jimmy Toscano. I'm John Zannis. We will see you guys